when you read the book Digital Minimalism, you learn that you should get rid of some digital things in your life.
You really should.
It's
Outside
crazy.
I don't know. Digital Minimalism, good title, but it was really catered towards just living a good life in general in a digital world.
Initial thoughts on the book. Chance, go.
I liked it. I think this is something that we talked about earlier. I think that it's very catered towards the male audience because all of his examples and every one of his philosophers that he brings up is a male. But he just seems like I don't know. When I picture Cal Newport, I picture a guy who gets really ecstatic about like building like a back porch or like just some handiwork. He just seems like that kind of guy.
Do you know what he looks like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, I think you're...
No, he fit the bill.
Yeah, he fit the bill, yeah.
But I liked it. I think the biggest takeaway for me was definitely the part on solitude, which we can get into more, but that's kind of my first point is how it is about how to optimize your relationship with technology, but it's also about moving outside of technology in a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was cool. I think it was a different tone shift from the last book.
From incredibly brash and pretentious to, I don't know what his tone would be.
I don't know. So I would do this. You know that like cool, nice uncle you have? Mm-hmm. That was Cal Newport.
Yeah,
he's got good nuggets all the time, but he's never too pushy about it.
Yeah, he's very pragmatic, and he's not, trying to sell you on anything. He's just saying like, here are the facts.
Yeah, and then like Tim Ferriss. I mean, to all his credit, is a wonderful and successful businessman, but he's the uncle with the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Or with the nice car,
Yeah, I put him closer to Gary Vee on my mind.
I was doing that, but yeah, we're going to talk about probably hustle culture in future episodes, so, but yeah.
To me, I don't know, that aggressive style doesn't always sell it for me. It just seems kind of superficial at times.
And like, I feel why he's so dogmatic, because I kind of like sometimes do that. But I try to do it more tasteful. I don't know. I feel like at times it wasn't tasteful.
In this book?
In Tim Ferriss's book.
Yeah.
Like at times he's just not as tasteful about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But on the flip side, I think Newport is very tasteful. It's not, he doesn't build himself up in order to build his arguments up.
He builds up other people a lot, actually.
Yeah, exactly. He's always bringing in examples. And a lot of Thoreau. A lot of philosophers in general, honestly.
Yeah, man, that was interesting. How do you feel about that?
I liked it a lot. I think the big thing on walking, where he mentioned like Nietzsche, and I was just like, man, yeah. Nietzsche always talking about his, if you have a healthy body, you have a healthy philosophy, and just talking about walking for 8 hours a day, I was like, wow, that's textbook Nietzsche.
That is, and I mean that kind of goes back to like how he had the loss of health for a little bit of time before he refound his health.
Yeah, he had some kind of midlife health crisis that he retreated to like some house in the German hills, and he did a lot of his walking there. And then after he got over that sickness, he wrote a lot of his books about overcoming sickness, and in the same sense, overcoming dogmatic philosophy. It's interesting. It
is interesting. I think I enjoyed learning a little bit about Walden. I feel like this was like there was a chapter in there that almost felt like a Walden biography. Like if Walden was a person, it was a synopsis of Walden, and I thought that was interesting how he utilized that emphasis on solitude towards. It was kind of this nice setup to explaining, people don't have it right now, and digital minimalism is something that can help you get back to that.
Yeah, I think it was interesting how he, in that section where he's basically just giving you a summary of Walden, he's basically doing a summary of economy, which is the first chapter in Walden. Yeah. And a big part of that chapter, which is really out of place for a literature/philosophy work, is that he's doing a lot of economics. Like he's telling you, he's breaking down exactly what he did for every purchase. And it's not to flex how little money that Thoreau spent sitting in somebody's backyard for 2 years alone. It was to make a point of how meaningful and, calculated he was in finding a space where he can be alone and be more intentional about his life. And I think that parallels very nicely with what Newport's driving point is with technology.
Yeah, that's very true. I think one of my favorite parts about this book was obviously, like, I'm a minimalist and the whole thing was great, but it was interesting how he managed to really connect a lot of modern issues and like articulate them so well, and then give pretty solid examples as to how you can, and pretty solid practices of how you can get back to that solitude, get back to that centering of yourself.
Right, yeah. It's interesting how it's all about, I don't know, working to use technology. Like, I think with a lot of people with digital minimalism, it's just saying like you need to push all technology aside. And then there's that counter argument from the digital optimization guy, where it was just I think in my opinion, a fundamental misunderstanding of Newport's argument, because a lot of people look at this and just say it's pushing aside all technology and then finding solitude. No, it's task batching so that you only have calls during a certain period of time. It's finding the good nuggets of utility within certain apps, and then just finding no utility in other apps in order to basically just minimize that time of your life, those distractions and such, to create good periods of solitude. Or the other thing I liked a lot was how he talked about we need to find better leisure.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Doing more analog activities like building a back porch.
Or reading books or whatever it was. And you know, it was really great. And I feel like if a parent read this book, or if all parents read this book, man, we'd have a lot more engaged parents now.
Oh yeah. I think this would be a great lesson to instill into your kids.
So that's true. As well as I remember he made that, like, he referenced, I think it was someone in the business world who had been impacted by digital minimalism and was so grateful to it because he had now had a better time with his kids, because he stopped being that father who was always checking the news. I think he was referencing, I'm trying to remember who he was referencing, but he was referencing a dad who essentially had found digital minimalism, had taken it, had utilized it, and went from being that guy who was always on his phone. And say like there's kids in a park. If you really look at it nowadays, a lot of parents are just, unfortunately, on their phones.
Yeah, I mean they're on their phones scrolling through, Facebook, looking at other people's kids while their kids are playing at the park, or they interact with their kids and they got to take a million photos of them, which they then put on Facebook. It's just sad how interwoven that connection has become.
And it's really difficult, and he articulated this well too. If you are going to try to preach to this generation that it's important to be off your phone, it's important to be engaged in social environments, well, at the same time, when you're supposed to be spending time with your kids, doing the exact opposite. I mean, the guy realized, like, dang, like it's impossible to, it's do as I say, not as I do stuff, which no child ever likes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're just going to pick up their iPad and do exactly what daddy does, right?
Exactly. And it's like, it's not a good lesson to teach your kids. And at the same time, for the adult, I mean, let's not act like those last 30, 40 years of your life aren't meaningful. Like, those adults, like, will have a better life if they also instill the practices too. Yeah,
that's a very good point. Even outside of their kids, they would, your life isn't over just because you have kids.
Well, debatable. No, but like, it's really good that he did break that down. I liked, I feel like the first part, by the way, for book reviews, we're kind of going to do it in this format. Initial thoughts, positives. We're going to go through a lot of the parts of the book, positives, all that stuff. Then some critiques, and then final rating. And we're going to have like an ongoing list.
Oh yeah. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. And we'll kind of like, for the first one, we're just going to basically say whether we think we liked it more than the 4-hour work week, right?
Yeah.
But then we'll get a real list to go, and I'll put it in Notion somewhere on our Google Doc.
You announced that to everyone as if I didn't know what the agenda was. I think I know what the agenda was, but I didn't know about the list. That'll be fun.
Oh, did you think I was telling you how we were going to do this?
No, you were saying it to everyone, okay. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good plan, but as if I was hearing this for the first time.
That's funny, dude. But yeah, no, going further with like the positive stuff, and kind of comparing with other things I've seen. So I'm personally doing a sort of digital detox at the moment, and a big component of this book is digital detox. You should take like a month, I think. Was that?
Yeah.
Take a month, kind of get rid of all non-necessary digital aspects of your life. So whether that be Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, you are allowed to have phone calls. You're allowed to have whatever is necessary. So something along the lines of bordering necessary to someone who would ask Cal would be like, oh, well, I keep in touch with a friend through like Facebook Messenger or something. He'd be like, no.
Call them.
Like,
when I think of what is necessary, there's a part late in the book where he talks about that nifty little invention where it's like the white phone or something like that, where you connect, basically like it's like a Bluetooth device, but it's an analog phone that connects to your iPhone, and you can turn it on, take that out with you, and the only thing this thing will do is call, and maybe you could do like a button text with like the 9 little number digits. But when I think of the Detox, I think of that. Like, imagine if you only had like a flip phone. You can't do basically anything else. And I think that's really important, because if you don't take the Detox first, it seems like you're not going to have a quick process with weaning off technologies. I mean, as soon as, like, for example, I know people, and myself included, who will go through and say, I need to delete people like off Instagram. And they start going through and you start unfollowing people to be more intentional about your Instagram usage. The next thing you know, you're just scrolling through the people that really don't mean much to you, or the people that are left. But either way, it's just, you haven't found the utility in it yet. You just, maybe weeded out a little bit of the worst.
Yeah, and I think a good thing that the Digital Detox does is, he says then afterwards, the goal is, let's find what you actually really, find meaning in. And I think this is where the definition of minimalism, once again, I feel like I do this all the time, but to those who don't fully understand it, it's, the word sounds like it means one thing, right? But don't always take it at face value. So minimalism mainly means, I would say you could call it intentionalism, and that would suffice to give a definition. And digitally, that means, you don't have to get rid of all digital stuff. Just, you should intentionally consume or create digitally, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Right, precisely. And I think that he makes a good distinction there too, where it's not on an app by app basis, but a feature by feature basis.
Exactly.
So, I don't know, you can say that you use Twitter because you use it as a news source, but you shouldn't go and follow meme pages on Twitter, because those aren't going to bring you utility. That is, I don't know, I guess entertainment is utility, but really you should be getting off your phone for entertainment, would be his argument.
If you want to see this episode or any other episode of the Rise Productive podcast, make sure to go and check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you can find podcasts today.